Okay, so usually lessons from the classroom starts at 4:30. I'm giving everyone about 5 minutes to enter in and just doing sound checks, housekeeping rules, all that fun stuff. So if you are joining and you could hear me, if you could just give me like a heart or something, just so I know that you guys could hear me. I like to do a sound check beforehand. Whether you send a thumbs up or a heart or something, just so I know you guys could hear me just fine. And I'll do the house rules right now. This is a Periscope that happens weekly, where we focus on things that are happening in the classroom. It's all about education, reflection as a teacher, hence the name Lessons from the Classroom. And I share things that I observe from my students, from my colleagues. So this is a respectful space. If you are here to spam, troll, disrespect, any of those things, you will be blocked immediately, and you will be banned. So please, if you are here to learn, welcome. If this is not for you, please see your way out. That'd be greatly appreciated. So I saw a couple of hearts. Welcome, welcome. Again, if you could do a little introduction, if you are a teacher, if you are a parent, what brought you to this Periscope in the first place. And again, my parrot clearly wants to get in on the discussion. I will reiterate the house rules, which is being respectful, being mindful of everyone else's experiences. And while everyone's just signing in, because I know there's a few people joining us, I'm going to get my parrot out because apparently she wants to join the Periscope. So 1 second. Okay, so I am back. I have a parrot that needs a lot of attention and anytime. Good. I'm happy you're here. If you could just say your name, I like to call people by their name and what brought you here in the first place while I'm doing introductions. So good evening, good afternoon. I'm not sure what the time zone is for you, but it's 4:30 here in Toronto. I'm Jam Gamble. I'm an educator by day, media personality by night. My life revolves. Hi, Gerson. Nice to meet you. My background is primarily in special education, but I do work in mainstream classrooms, so I have a lot of perspectives there as well. I am a TV host of a show called Voice for All on Rogers TV, as well as a motivational speaker, workshop facilitator, and it just depends on the day what I'm doing. So my life revolves around people, and education is truly a passion of mine. So this week's lessons from the classroom, I never pre-decide what my topics are because I wait till Monday to see how school was, what my students are going through, and then I take my topic from that. So this week's lesson from the classroom is all about what my students have taught me. I'm just gonna take off my charger here, and so I could just move that so I could use. I'm a hands person. I'm really big on using my hands. Okay, so what my students have taught me, and it's. I always say that yes, I'm the teacher, we're the educators, and our job is to teach our students. But I think a true educator will take lessons from their students as well. So this week, talking about what my students have taught me. The list is endless. And I did mention, that I was going to get really personal this week. And I find I'm already a really personal person to begin with. But I did want to dig into some topics that I've learned about myself in the past couple months of teaching, and especially this week. So where I want to start is parenting. And I know maybe Gerson, this is not your thing, but just hear me out for a second. I'm not a parent as of yet. And oftentimes when people ask me, yeah, this is my parrot. It's my parrot who's joined a Periscope. It happens from time to time. I'm not a parent. And sometimes when people ask me what I do and I say, oh, I do this and my kids, and they're like, oh my God, your kids, how many kids do you have? And I go, no, I don't actually have children of my own. I have my students, and my students have taught me a lot about being a parent in this day and age. Growing up, I remember that we didn't have a lot of technology. We didn't have cell phones. There was no Snapchat. There was no Twitter. There was no Instagram, no cyberbullying, none of that stuff. And so we really lived a life of playing with our friends in the flesh, you know, playing at the park, friends coming over, all of that kind of stuff. But now, fast forward 25 years, and being a kid in today's day and age is hard. It truly is hard. And my students have really opened my eyes, not only what it's like to be a child in 2016 or a teenager in 2016, but what it's also like to be a parent in 2016. And it's a lot of work. A lot of work. Emotionally, it's a lot of work. Financially, it's a lot of work. But primarily what I'm focusing on right now is the emotional aspect of being a parent and having a child in this day and age. My students bring so much of themselves to the classroom, and not just academically speaking. They come with a lot of emotional baggage. They see things at home, and I've spoken about this before, but it's something I just have to keep repeating. They see a lot of things at home, and it doesn't just stay at home. They come to school, and they let that baggage go. They release it. And for some of these kids, either they're expressing themselves in a negative way, and then we're always wondering, okay, what's going on with you? Why is this child acting this way? And truthfully, what it is that there's pain. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of confusion. Their emotions aren't being validated. So they're coming to school. And even if they're acting out, they're getting some kind of attention. And maybe, just maybe, somebody might ask them, what is wrong? That's a possibility. So being with my students, I have, and I've said this in past Periscopes, I've learned what mental health really is. Again, growing up, and I'm not that old, you can tell I'm not that old, but growing up, I didn't know what mental health was. I didn't even know what that term meant. Anxiety, depression, those weren't words. We used words like sad and mad and angry and happy. Those were our adjectives to describe how we were feeling. And now I have students who have anxiety disorders. I have students who have emotional issues that we need to be mindful of and respectful of. And it makes me wonder, as an educator, would I be able to handle this emotionally if I was also a parent? And how I would handle it. Because once upon a time when I was getting into this field, and I've admitted this in my past Periscopes, I used to be that ignorant camp staff, that ignorant educator who saw parents coming in for meetings or meet and greets, or just maybe to drop off their child's lunch, and they're that parent has a very stone cold face. Maybe there's not a lot of affection going on between them and their child, and I used to be like, oh my goodness, like, come on, parent, get your act together. And then I realized parents go through things too, and the children who are going through things, there's a good chance their parents are going through things too. And I look at them as a learning tool, and I look at them and instead of judging, how can I help? Is my job really hard? There's days where it's hard, and I think with every job, there's a hard moment in every job. Thank you for asking that. There's a hard moment in every job. You could be working in the bank. There could be a hard job. You could be working in retail. Sales aren't being met. Maybe there was a really irate customer. There's difficulties in every job. In my job, because I deal with people on an emotional and intellectual level, it does pose its challenges. But this is a part of the field that I'm in, and I look at it. Oh, you just fell. But I do enjoy it. I do. And I'm one of those people that when it's Christmas, I'm like, hot diggity, it's Christmas, 2 weeks holidays, and then woo, it's March break, and then woo, school year is almost over. But every single year on the last day of school, I cry my eyes out. I bawl. Every single year. I get emotionally attached to my students, and this is something that I've learned. Why do I get emotionally attached to my students? Why do I cry at the end of the year when I know this is the same deal every single year, that come June, bye-bye, on to the next one kind of thing? Why can't I let go? And then I realize it's because not only do I provide to my students, but they provide to me. they see me. They could see if something's wrong. They could see if I'm disappointed. They could see if I need a hug. They could see if I need a laugh, and they will give that to me. And then I give that back to them. So we have more than just a teacher-student relationship. We really do have a relationship that we care about each other's emotions. My job goes beyond a paycheck. My job goes beyond having the summers off, which is really not that glamorous, to be honest with you. But I love what I do, and I love what I learned from my students. They have taught me how to laugh at failure and not to get so emotionally distraught about it. One of my students today, we were doing a group worksheet, and he answered the question, but he answered it in such a, like, buddy, are you even here? Like, are you even in class? Are you even tuning into this lesson right now? And then when I asked him where his thinking was, like why he chose this, he goes, I really just don't know. I just don't get it. And I couldn't help but laugh because, and I didn't laugh to be like, haha, you didn't get it. Hi, Claire's here, yay! I didn't laugh because he didn't get it. I laughed because he was laughing at himself. He's like, I don't know. And I do that now. I reach hardships in my life or in my day, and sometimes instead of just beating myself up about it, which a lot of us grown-ups do, I laugh about it and I go, my gosh, what was I thinking? How did this happen? Let me pause it and let me restart everything. Even though I'm not that old, they have taught me how to find that child within me, how to role play and be creative and to be funny and to be lighthearted. There's so many things my students have taught me. The other day we were playing basketball. Now, for those of you who do not know me personally, I'm 5'11", so I was playing basketball with grade 2s. So they're like 7 and 8 years old, and they're like up to my thigh. You should see me playing basketball. I knew I was the grown-up. I knew I was the teacher, but I went hard on them. I didn't even care. I wanted to be a kid. I didn't want to be that responsible grown-up. I wanted to be a kid who was competitive and tell you where to go. So I was dunking on them. I was blocking. I was slapping the ball out of their hand. I was yelling, like, aggressively, like, ah, yeah, poor things, okay? I was serving them. I was telling them, this is my house. I was doing that. And my kids are like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, we're playing basketball, aren't we? Like, get with it. And I had a big winter jacket on because I was really cold, but I was the only teacher who was running around and being rambunctious with my kids. And I was being rambunctious, and I was being like them. I was having fun with them, and they saw that, and my kids know. I don't know who just took a photo and why they took a photo. Please don't take photos, whoever you are. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. So I was playing with them, and I was having that fun with them, and they know that I'm that kind of person who will be very serious when I have to be, but I'll also be that person who lets loose and could be a kid and run all over the playground and do imaginative activities with them. And this all comes back to what my students teach me. They really teach me. And yes, I went to school, and yes, I took courses, and I continue to do workshops and things like that where I learn how to better myself as an educator. But it comes down to the practice that I'm doing in the classroom. It comes down to failing and having successful moments with my students. I work with, I guess you could say, it's a difficult population. I don't like when people say that. Again, for those of you who don't know, who are just tuning in, I work a lot with children who have autism. And there's this huge misconception that working with people who have autism must be so challenging and so difficult. Let me tell you something. Working with children is difficult, whether they have autism or not. Working with children, can you just not? Working with children in general is difficult. because there's going to be high moments and there's going to be low moments. But there's a beauty in working with children who learn differently. There is a challenge that I love working with my students who are on the spectrum. I've been using social media a lot, like I was last year. I've been using Snapchat, and your student population isn't difficult. It has its difficult moments. Teaching is difficult. Teaching is difficult, not just my population in particular. But I've been using a lot of social media apps and things like that with my kids to teach them different role playing, different voices, turn taking, all of that jazz. And again, that just comes from trial and error. And they've taught me that I have the ability to think on a higher level. I don't have to have a master's degree. I don't have to be, someone who's been teaching for 35 years. I just have to have the heart and the mind and the sensibility to be like, I'm going to try something, and I'm not going to be afraid to try it, and I'm just going to do it with my students. So they've really encouraged me to take risks. Now, I know Claire, I'm hoping Claire's still here. Claire, you are technically a teacher, and let me just look, come here. Claire's technically a teacher. Claire, what have your students, if you're still here, because I know you're in another country right now. Take Zuzu. Take Zuzu. She's just taking over my Periscope here. There we go. Go with Daddy. Okay.
Hello, Periscope people.
So, if Claire's still here, Claire's also a teacher. Yep. Claire, in the times you've taught, what have your students taught you? And because when this video does go on YouTube afterwards, unfortunately the little questions, your little comments don't pop up. So I'm just going to repeat Claire's comments whenever she does write it. Reflecting on what I've learned, my students have taught me how to be creative. They've taught me how to be fearful and fearless. They've taught me how to love, whether it's very minimally or to really pour it out on a daily basis. They've taught me how to be generous and not to see a price tag. Unfortunately, to remain open to possibilities. Yes, so Claire said what she's learned from her students is to remain open to possibilities. And just going back on what I was saying I've worked in a couple of schools where according to United Way, the poverty population is like 1 in 6 in some of the communities that I work in. And in that 1 in 6, a lot of the students I support fall in that 1 in 6. And I know a lot of teachers have to spend a lot of money on resources, whether we're buying the supplies for our classroom or we're buying games, or because we just want to make sure our students are getting everything possible to learn. But I've gone as far as wanting to buy jackets and shoes because I want my students to feel. We could talk about that later. I've gone as far as wanting to help my students. Yes, they taught me how much I don't know. As you teach, you learn. So true. Every day I'm learning. Every day I'm going to class to learn. But I've wanted to go and buy my students jackets and shoes, and I've wanted to buy them, groceries for their lunches because I just want them to have that full educational experience and not to worry about, being not properly dressed outside or not being able to keep up with their peers because their energy level is low. You will learn, if you are an educator watching this, that eventually money doesn't mean anything. Your students' well-being is going to mean a whole lot more to you. And unfortunately, we don't get reimbursed for that. But I like to say that we all get paid in 3 ways. We get paid in, I guess you could call it a lovely. We get paid in a paycheck. We get paid in opportunities, and we get paid in the blessings. Whether you believe in blessings or not, good karma, if you want to call it that. We get paid in good karma, and we have been really assigned a very special role being educators, and I take pride in my job. I don't think I was as in love with it before, but I think I definitely have fallen more in love with it. And every day my students show me something different. I actually tweeted a picture. My student wrote me a love note today. It was something like, I love you past my, I love you beyond my heart. I love you to the stars. I love you past the tree, and then he's like, I love you, blah, 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 and he put all this gibberish at the bottom. And then he went on to draw me a picture of a pony, because I said I wanted a unicorn, so he drew me a picture of a pony. And that is my fuel. I see that, and I get this good belly laugh, and I feel great. And he sees that he makes me feel great. So we're giving a little bit of love back to each other. So every day, like Claire says, is a learning opportunity. Yes, I'm the one who's supposed to be teaching, but ultimately I'm the one who's walking away with life lessons and career lessons for my students. They provide me with so much insight on how I need to teach, but also they provide me with a lot of perspective on if I was to be a parent, what kind of parent would I want to be? Would I be a strict parent? Which I think I would be. Would I be a strict parent? Would I be a cool, relaxed parent? Will I be that parent who will be making them fresh smoothies every single morning and their snacks separated in different containers and labeled with notes? My husband said who would be the bad cop. I'd be the good cop / bad cop, and he'd just be my assistant who doesn't know what's happening. That's what I'm gonna say. But I've seen parents write notes to their child in their lunch bag, and I'm like, I would so be that parent. I totally be that parent. So I thank my students, I really do, and I thanked them today actually for making me just have an awesome afternoon and reminding me why I got into this profession. So if you are a teacher who's watching this now or later, do yourself and your students a favor and thank them. Just give them a big old thank you. Thank you for the hard moments. Thank you for the easy moments. Thank you for the moments of clarity. Just thank them. Because when summer comes or when you retire, you will still be in teacher mode. You will forever be a teacher. You'll forever be an educator. And you'll forever remember those students who made an impact on you. And those students who left a lasting impression. Because if they could do that to us, we could certainly do that to them. And I want to be that teacher 10 years from now. My students could remember that crazy, eccentric teacher with a bald head who was fun and outgoing and creative, but tough, but lovable. And because I remember my elementary teachers who were like that. So with all that said, that was this week's Lessons from the Classroom. Again, we aim to have Lessons from the Classroom every Thursday live here on Periscope. It does go on YouTube, so you can find me on my YouTube channel, Jamila Gamble. You could follow me on Twitter, where I'll post it again at Miss Jan PCCS. And yeah, stay tuned for next week's topic. I usually post it around Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on how obvious the lesson was for that week. But Claire, I'm so happy you tuned in. And Claire, I'm not sure if she's back home or if she's still in Barbados, but if you're in Barbados and you tuned into this week's Lessons from the Classroom, that shows dedication. And shout out to Garrison, who has been sending continuous hearts for like the past 10 minutes and asked some great questions in the beginning. So shout out to you as well. And thank you to anyone who passed through, respected the space, weren't trolling, weren't leaving any inappropriate comments, and I was able to successfully do a Periscope without having to block or ban anybody. So hooray to that. So catch you guys next week here on Thursday. If I can do it on Thursday, I will give you guys a heads up about that. But Lessons in the Classroom, signing out, Jam Gamble, and take care.